want to discuss the concept of time value of money. Specifically, I want to talk about what we refer to as present value. Now, time value of money is the concept that money received today is worth more than an equal amount received sometime in the future. Why is that? Well, because interest can be earned on the money and it's going to grow to a larger amount in the future. So we want to find the relationship between money today and money sometime in the future. Why do we care about this? Well, in many cases, amounts of money are received over time, and we'd like to know what all this future money is worth today, what we refer to as present value. For example, earnings over the years of a person is working are not paid all at once, but they're paid over the working life. Cash flows from a business occur over many years. If you own a bond, it pays interest over a number of years. Once all these cash flows are in the same time period, we can just add them up to compute the value at some point in time. So suppose you receive $100 5 years from today. What would that be worth to you today? So we refer to the $100 as the future value and the amount it's worth today as the present value. The present value is the amount you have to deposit today that will grow to $100 5 years from today. So the amount of growth is determined by the interest rate. So I'm going to begin here by looking at the future value equation. The future value at time period t equals the present value times 1 plus the interest rate raised to the tth power. Now, the interest rate here is in decimal form, so 0.09 for 9%, 0.02 for 2%. And if we solve for PV, we get that the present value equals the future value divided by 1 plus the interest rate raised to the tth power. So, for example, let's say the interest rate is 10%. Then the present value would be 100 divided by 1.10 raised to the fifth power, and that turns out to be $62.09. Let's verify that. So 1.1, you hit the y to the x key to raise to a power, so hit to the fifth power. All right, this is the number in the denominator. Now we either have to take 100 and divide it by this, or we can flip this over. This 1 over x key flips it over, and then we can multiply by 100, and we get $62.09. Alternatively, if you happen to have a financial calculator, they actually have these formulas built into the calculator. Okay, so in this case, the Texas Instruments BA2 Plus, here's how you would put it in. You'd put in 5 for the number of periods, that's n. You would put in 10 as the interest rate. Okay, on this calculator, you don't put it in decimal form, you put it in a whole number, and you would put in the future value of 100 FV, and you hit CPT, compute PV, and you get the present value, $62.09. So here's what we're basically doing. We're moving this $100 5 spaces or 5 periods back to time period 0. So that's what this looks like. Okay, it can be useful to draw a time cash flow diagram to get a visual of what we're trying to do. For a simple problem like this, it may not be as necessary, but when you do more complicated problems, sometimes it's kind of helpful. All right, let's take a look at another problem. Suppose we receive $100 in year 5, as we did before, but we also receive $100 in year 3. How do we find the PV of these two cash flows? Well, if we find the present value of the year 3 cash flow and the $100 present value of the $100 in year 5, we can just add them up. And we already know this is $62.09, so let me figure out what the present value of $100 3 years in the future is worth. If you're using the financial calculator, you have to clear the workspace, okay, this time value of money functions, not by hitting CEC, but by hitting second and then over the FV key, it says CLR TVM, clear time value of money. So let me put that in. I actually didn't have to clear it. I could have just changed N. But N is 3, the interest rate is 10, and the future value is 100. And let's compute the present value, and we get 7513. And if we add these up, all right, 7513 plus 6209 is 137.22. All right, and again, another visual here to show you, here's the cash flow in year 3. We find the present value by bringing it back 3 periods. Here's the $100 in year 5. We find the present value by bringing it back 5 periods, and then we simply add them up. Okay, the general cash flow diagram looks like this, right? You have cash flows. They may be different. I happen to use the same $100, but you may have cash flows that differ. They don't all have to be $100. It could be 100, could be 200, 125, 300, 3,000, right? All we have to do is find the present value of each one of these and bring it back to time period 0, and then we can add them up. So the general formula is find the present value of the first cash flow, add it to the present value of the second cash flow, okay, and do that for all the cash flows you happen to have. Add them up, you have the present value, or you have what that is worth to us today. Okay, this is a powerful concept because it allows us to value a lot of things. For example, an investment project. Suppose you're thinking of buying a barber shop or investing in a new machine. Well, you're doing so not because you just want to own a barber shop. You want to have cash flows coming in. And how much cash flow is coming in is going to dictate how much you should pay for that barber shop. If you're buying a new machine for your business, again, is it worth it or not? Well, how much extra cash flow are you going to get when you invest in that machine? So we can find the present value of those cash flows, compare it to the price of the machine, and decide whether it's worth buying or not. If you happen to buy a bond, bonds pay interest usually every 6 months. We can find the present value of all those cash flows and figure out what the bond should be worth to us today. Perhaps lottery winnings, okay? Maybe you're lucky enough to win the lottery and it's paid over a number of years. Maybe you're receiving $50,000 a year for the next 20 years. But you've decided, I'd really rather have the money all now. And you didn't check the little box that said lump sum. Well, you can sell it, usually an insurance company, or there are these businesses that actually buy these stream of payments, and they will pay you the present value of it. You may also have been, unfortunate. The lottery winnings are fortunate, but perhaps you were unfortunate in an automobile accident and you received some judgment where you're receiving payments, again, over a number of years. You may want to receive that money all at once because perhaps you want to go to college and, rather than receiving $10,000 a year for the next 25 years, you'd rather get a lump sum now to help you pay for college. So how do you determine how much you should get? You find the present value. So this is a really powerful concept, and if you master this in your intro finance course, you'll find that it'll cover more than half of what you'll cover in the course. So mastering this is essential for doing well in any finance class.